Alright, just to get us going here, let's just review what the heck circumference means. Okay, it's just a vocabulary word, and what it really means is the distance in a measurement, distance around a circle. A circle. Okay, so that's what circumference means. So when you see this fancy word circumference, remember it's just a distance around a circle. Okay, so we're just going to use this as an example. Okay, and I did not mean to do that. We're going to use this circle as an example. So if we were talking about, let's find the circumference of this circle, we're just talking about how far around is it. Okay, so sometimes the problem will just ask you find the circumference, and then there's a formula for that that you can just plug in, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. But remember, you're finding the distance around. Other times, though, there's going to be word problems, and there's some clues in word problems that will tell you that you're going to find the circumference rather than the area. So for example, if a word problem says something like distance around, distance around, then you know that you would need to find the circumference. Okay, or if a word problem says travel around, that would be circumference. Okay, if it said something like you needed to put up a border around a circular object, put up border, that would be circumference because it's the distance around a circle. Okay, so I just want to do that to get you started, and then we'll dive into the formula on the next slide. Alright, on this problem you will see, and there was a typo so I apologize, on this problem we need to have, it says find the circumference of a circle having a diameter of 22 centimeters. And in this one they even draw it out for us. So here's asking for the circumference. And remember, the circumference is the distance around the circle. Okay, it's not talking about the whole area, but it's the distance around the circle. Okay, so to find that, we have a formula, and I have them written here. Either one of these formulas work. If I was you, I would just get in the habit of using one or the other. But it's circumference, so the distance around a circle, equals pi 3.14 times diameter. Okay, so you can just multiply pi times diameter, or circumference equals 3.14 times radius times 2. And the reason why both of these work is, if you notice, radius times 2 equals our diameter. So they're the same thing, however you want to do it. So in this one, since it gives us our diameter, why not use our formula that just uses diameter? So we're going to take the diameter, so the distance across the circle, which is 22 centimeters. So circumference equals 22, which is our diameter, and we're going to multiply that, multiplied by our pi, which is 3.14. So now we see that we have our diameter in there, and we have pi in there, so now we just need the answer, and that would equal, when we throw this into our calculator, 50.24 when I throw that in my calculator. Okay, so 50.24 centimeters. Since this is just a distance around your circle, it's not squared inches, it's just centimeters and no square. So 50.24 centimeters is your circumference. Alright, here we go. So number 2, the question reads, find the following measures. We have diameter, area, and circumference, and it does lay us out here nice for us, but it might be important. Let's highlight those. So diameter, area, and circumference. We want to find all those. Okay, so to begin here, if we look at our circle, it shows us that we have from the middle to the end, it doesn't go all the way across, so this is our radius. So if our radius is 2.6, then I would need to go to get the diameter 2.6, and then remember it would just continue going, so we need to double another 2.6 to get our diameter. So 2.6 plus 2.6 or times 2 equals 5.2. Okay. And then next, it looks like here they want us to find circumference. Okay, so our circumference, we can use either one again of these two. We can use 3.14 times diameter or 3.14 times radius times 2, because this is the same thing as diameter. Okay, so since I do know that my diameter is 5.2, I might just use this equation here. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and go circumference equals 3.14 times diameter, and our diameter is 5.2, so times 5.2. And when I do that, I'm going to get 16.328 millimeters. So our circumference is 16.28 millimeters. And then the last thing it wants us to find is area. Okay, so now that's a different formula, and we do have these posted in the room, but area, remember, always equals, area equals 3.14 times radius squared, or 3.14 times radius. Either one works. A lot of people like this one, because then we don't have to worry about the radius squared. Alright, so 3.14 for our area. 3.14. And then we want to do times radius, and our radius is 2.6. So times 2.6 times 2.6. Okay. And when we do that, we're going to get 21.2264 meters squared. Okay? Or millimeters. It's meters, I believe. Okay. So 21.2264 meters squared for our area. And I'm not going to write them in up here just because of room purposes, but I do have them labeled here. Okay. Just a reminder, when you're doing this part of your area, some of your calculators do order of operations, but other ones don't. You're better off putting in your radius times your radius and then multiplying it by pi. But most calculators these days can do order of operations anyways. Alright, so here we go. We have a word problem. World record. The world's largest Ferris wheel was built in London in 1897. The wheel had a radius of 150 feet. How far would you travel in one turn of the wheel? So how far would you travel in one turn of the wheel? Right, so we have to do a little investigating here. First, let's go back to our problem and underline the really important stuff. It says that it has a radius of 150 feet. And then how far would you travel in one turn? These two things are important. Okay, notice that it doesn't say find the area or find the circumference. It wants you to be able to pick out from the problem which calculation would make sense. So let's go ahead and draw this Ferris wheel. And you guys know Mr. K is not going to have a perfect circle, but we'll do the best we can. We have a wheel. And it does say that it has a radius of 150 feet. So remember, radius has to go right through your middle. And then it goes to one end, and it's 150 feet. 150 feet, okay? So now we just decide, are we going to do circumference using one of our two formulas, or do we need to calculate the area? Well, when it's talking about how far, that's a distance. And when we're talking about a distance, you see here that says how far. That's a distance around. And when we're talking about distance around, that's what circumference is. So we need to calculate our distance. Okay. So I should also highlight in the problem far, because that's really important. So how far would you travel in one turn of the wheel? Okay. So to set this up then, we can use either one of these two. Okay. And since it gives us my radius, I might use my formula for circumference that involves radius. So I'm going to take 3.14. Circumference equals 3.14. And I'm going to multiply that by, it says, my radius. And then I need to multiply that by 2. So by 2 here. And when you do that, you're going to go ahead and get 942 feet. Now since that's a distance around, we're not talking squared inches, so it's just, or feet, so it's just 942 feet is my circumference, which answers the question. So it's 942 feet in one turn. Alright, so it says a roundabout is a one-way circular intersection. If its diameter is 150 feet, how many feet would a car travel if it drove once around the roundabout? So let's just visualize this. So we have this circular roundabout, and its diameter, which goes right in the middle all the way across, is 150. Let's rewrite that. 150 feet across. How many feet would a car travel if it drove once around? Well, let's just think about this. It says, let's say the car started here. If it drove once around, we are finding the distance around the circle, and that is our circumference. So we want to solve for circumference. So C equals, okay. So now we decide, well, which formula do I use for circumference? We have two that work equally well. We can take 3.14 times radius times 2, or 3.14 times diameter. They both give us the distance around, which is our circumference. Okay. So I notice here that it gives me my diameter, so why not use this formula, 3.14 times diameter. Okay. So circumference equals 3.14. And then times diameter, and in this case diameter is 150 feet, so times 150, and that will give me the answer. And when I multiply 150 times 3.14, I get 471 feet. So if you were to drive in your car around this given roundabout, you would drive 471 feet.